Hello chessmates, welcome to a new video. Today we are going to work with tactics. I will be solving puzzles here, and as I see the position I will be saying everything I think about, so you can see the thought process I went through until I got the solution. So that's the idea, let's start. Okay, we are playing as black here. The first thing we should look at is the material. So we have two rooks against two rooks. We have one minor piece here against two minor pieces, and we have 6 pawns against 6 pawns. So right now we have a piece down. Also, it's very helpful to analyze other things like some problems our opponent might have in this position. Right now I can see that this king is not very safe right now. It's very exposed. The rook might check at some point here, and the king is not very well protected, so that's something we should keep in mind. Also, this knight on f3 is hanging, so we should remember those things. So now I'm going to try to find some candidate moves. I'm looking at some idea like bishop e2. It doesn't make too much because white can just trade and then they can move the knight, so it doesn't seem very strong. But I'm also looking at a move like rook a8. The king can escape to b4 and then the king might go to b3. So right now I'm thinking that if I can control first b4, then the king won't be able to escape. So probably I can play something like c5, threatening checkmate with rook a8. This is very interesting. After c5, if white takes the pawn on b5, I can play rook a8, and this is going to be mate anyway. So this looks fine. Although after c5, black can play a move like rook takes bishop. The bishop controls b5, so now the king will be able to escape if I play something bad like rook a8. So c5, rook takes bishop seems to be the best for white. Of course, I can always take the rook. That's fine. I got the exchange in that variation, but white will still have two minor pieces for the rook. So I'm trying to find something better, and I'm finding a very interesting move right now. After he takes the bishop, I can play king c6. The white king is in a mate net. It's not easy to escape here. So after king c6, I'm threatening mate with rook a8. White doesn't have checks, at least not good checks. White can play something like this. I just capture. White can trade, but then I take with my rook, and it's the same threat. So I don't see a way white can escape. After knight takes pawn, I will play rook a8 anyway. So I think that line is winning. So I'm going to check from the beginning. I play c5, threatening rook a8, and the only move I can see for white is this rook takes bishop. Then I can play this beautiful idea, king c6, ignoring this move, rook takes bishop, but creating a very strong threat because now I'm controlling b5. White can trade. I just recapture with my rook, and after knight takes pawn, I just take the knight, and after knight takes pawn, I check, and then I mate. Okay, let's play it because this seems fine. So c5 and then c4. Okay, well I didn't analyze that move, but the idea is the same. The idea is to escape over b5 now. So let's see how to play against this. Well, I'm thinking that I can play king c6, and I'm still threatening rook a8. This should be very strong. After king c6, white can take here with check, but it doesn't matter too much. I just come back, and then I keep controlling this. The pawn is blocking here b5, but even if the pawn moves, the bishop is also controlling that square, so the king won't be able to escape over here. So yeah, king c6, and after white takes, I just come back, and I'm still controlling b6, so this should be the right move, I think. He takes, I just come back here. Okay, there's something wrong here, let me check. Yeah, well, if I play king b7, white can try to escape over a4. I missed this, so this is not going to work, this king b7, but probably bishop b5 does work, because then I'm controlling a4. I'm still threatening this mate. So let me check. Bishop takes, and then he trades, then he checks, and then this is mate. Okay, yeah, that was a tough one. Okay. Okay, here we're playing as white, and our opponent just plays h6. So let's take a look at the material as we always do. We have a queen, 3 minor pieces against 3 minor pieces, 2 rooks, and 7 pawns, 7 pawns. So the material is balanced, but I have a problem here with my queen. Maybe if I go to h4, well, he cannot play g5, because then I can always check over there, and well, maybe he can play g5, and this is very complicated after I go back. So I'm going to try to find some strong move. Well, right now I see that there is an attraction here. This one should be much easier than other positions we have been analyzing here. I see that I have an attraction here, and when the king takes, there is a fork. So yeah, look at the queen here, and look at this nice square for my knight. So yeah, this one is pretty easy. Queen takes, and knight d5, and knight takes queen. Okay, let's see the next. Here we are playing as white, and we have 1 queen against 1 queen. Rooks we have 1 against 2. Minor pieces we have 2, and he has 1. And then 3 pawns against 4 pawns. So our opponent has a rook and a pawn against 1 knight. That's the material relation here. So we are down, of course, in material. We also have some trouble here on g2, but his king is not very safe. I have some checks like this. So also there might be some idea with some queen here. Of course the knight is controlling, but it's something we can analyze. So let's see. The first move I'm thinking is queen a8. I really like this idea, because if he takes, I can take with my rook, and then I have a rook, 2 knights, and also a pawn creating threats on this king. But he can play something like king e7, and then the king will be escaping. But I see there is some in between here that can be very interesting. I play queen a8, and after he takes, as I don't want the king to escape, I can play this in between knight c6. This could be the right move, or the right idea. Then if the king comes up, I will have a check, and then I'm taking the knight if the king comes down. So this looks very good. So let me check. Queen a8, knight takes queen, knight c6. The king comes to d7. I check with the rook on a7, and now he can block with the knight on c7. Then I can play knight c6, but the king can go to e8. I don't think I'm winning in that line. So this queen a8 is probably not that strong. So I'm going to try with another check. We always should analyze checks, captures, and threats. So that's why I'm working with checks. Also, I have a big problem here with mate. So I don't have too many options here. So I'm just analyzing the checks as the only way to escape here. So knight c6 can be another possibility. This looks also very good. After this check, black has three moves: king e8, king d7, and king c8. But after king d7 or king c8, my knight will go to b6, checking. So probably these moves are not that strong. So I'm going to focus on this king e8. That's probably the most complicated one. And then I can play this queen a8. Now it seems better, because if he doesn't take, if he comes here, I have mate with knight b6. So I'm going to analyze the line, the most complicated line, where he takes my queen, I take his knight, black plays king d7, only move, and then what? Then I can continue checking, rook a7, and he has two moves. He can play king c8 or king e8, but when he goes to c8, I'd capture here, or I just play here, knight b6, and this is mate with both moves. And if he doesn't go to c8 and he goes to e8, I will play knight d6, and then I will mate when he goes to f8 with my rook on f7. So I'm going to repeat that slowly so I can recheck that, and also you can probably understand it better. So the first move is knight c6. The king goes to e8. This seems to be the best line. And then queen a8. He has to take, and then I take. And the king has to come to d7. And then I play rook a7. The king may come to e8, but then I capture on d6. And when the king comes here, I mate on f7. Yeah, that seems fine. So very quickly I'm going to check this knight c6, king d7, then I set knight b6, and if the king comes here, I will have queen a8, he takes, I take the knight, and as I have the two knights here controlling here and here, my rook here, this is going to be mate. Okay. And the other line, knight c6, king c8, that seems very bad, because then I can play knight b6 and then queen a7, checkmate. So this time I'm sure that's the right move. So knight c6, king e8, then I set queen a8, I take, I check, and I mate. Okay, let's continue with the next. Rook b1. We have rooks and pawns endgame with one pawn up, and we need to find the right idea here. The first move I like here is king h5, bringing the king to g6, threatening mate, and taking the pawn. In a rook's endgame with one pawn up, it's not so easy to win very often, but if I have two pawns up, it's almost always winning. So this idea seems strong. King h5 and king g6. So let me see what can he play after king h5. If he checks, I will play king g6 and I win, I think, because I'm threatening mate and I'm taking the pawn, as I said. So king h5, then what? What is he going to play? He can play something like rook g1. This is interesting, because he's trying to avoid this because of the capture. Okay. Yeah, but look at this. I'm thinking some very nice move. So king h5, rook u1. I don't need to go directly. I can play this idea, g5. This is very interesting. Because if he doesn't take, of course I will be advancing with my king and I don't lose the pawn. But if he takes, after e5, he takes my pawn, there is a very special move. I can play here f5. This looks very good. I lost one pawn in that variation, but my opponent has a big problem, and the problem is the king is unsafe there. I'm going to play king g6, I'm going to threaten mate, I'm going to play f6, and I think I'm winning. I'm using his pawn on g5 as an umbrella, protecting against the threats of the rook. So this rook cannot check because of the pawn blocking the checks. That's very helpful for my king, because then I can create really strong threats over there. So I really like this variation. So king h5, rook g1, I can play g5, and when he takes, I play f5. This has to be the right idea here. Yeah. After I play king g6 and I play f6, my pawn on f6 and the other pawn on g5 will be protecting my king on g6. So there won't be checks, and I will be threatening things like this, or like check, check, pawn. Yeah, because this is also something important. I have a bishop pawn here. So when we have this position with the king blocking a pawn in a rook's endgame, and the rook goes to defend passively over the last rank, if we have a bishop pawn, we can win. We cannot win with a knight or a rook pawn, but with a bishop or a central pawn, this is winning because I can always check in some point when my rook is on the other side. So yeah, I'm going to check just to make sure there is no other strong idea. So king h5, any other possibility for black? Let me check rook f1. I just play king g6, threatening mate and the pawn. He can play king here, but I can play f5. Yes, this should be winning because then I'm going to capture the pawn, threatening mate. So I'm almost sure this is the right move. King h5. After rook g1, I said I was going to play g5, and then I was going to play f5. Now I go to e6, and I'm using the pawn as an umbrella, as I said. So I'm mating here. If he comes with the king to f8, I can still play f6. Again, threatening mate. So this is winning for white. A nice position here. Okay, let's continue with one more, and here we are playing as white. Our opponent plays queen f5. Let's see the material. Queens 1 versus 1, rooks 2 versus 2, minor pieces 1 1, and then 6 against 6 pawns. So the material is balanced. We are playing as white. Some problems our opponent has, for example, the king is in the same diagonal than our queen, so there might be some discovered checks. Also, this knight is unprotected. That could be important in some moment, in some line. So let's analyze. Of course, the first thing that comes to my mind are discovered checks. So I'm thinking knight c4, I'm thinking knight g4. So probably one of them is the right idea, but we need to analyze. Well, I'm thinking knight c4 here, and then he should play the king, let's say king a7. Then the knight is hanging, but the problem is that our opponent can deflect. He can trade here, and then he takes the rook. So that line seems strong at first sight, but it's not working because the queen will be overcherished, protecting two rooks, and then he can deflect here and capture here at the end of the line. So knight c4, king h7, it doesn't seem to work. The other move I'm analyzing here is knight d7, but then he can play f6, blocking the check, and I don't see a good way to continue. This rook is also hanging here for my knight, so I can play knight c6. That's another possibility. He may come here, and then I cannot take directly because he will deflect and capture. But what if I play an in between? So knight c6, king h7, I play rook takes rook in between. He should take my rook, and then I can take his rook. That seems fine. It's not so complicated. So I think that line clearly works for white here, getting the rook. The most complicated move here is the in between, and of course white can play that. So check, I take here, and then I take the rook. Something that makes this kind of positions complicated is that we have many interesting moves in the first turn. We can play knight c4, we can play knight g4, knight d7, knight c6. So that makes everything more complicated. When there is only one check, and we are sure that's the only possibility for us because we are receiving mate or something, then sometimes it's even easier. So that makes this more difficult. The fact that there are many good and interesting moves in the first turn. But well, finally we could get the right solution with this idea of the discovered, in between, and then capture. So let's see the last one. Here we are playing as black, and our opponent plays h5. We have the material here: queen, queen, two rooks, bishop, knight, and 7 pawns against 7 pawns. Okay, some problem our opponent might have. Well, I'm threatening this bishop, so at some point I can play something like rook takes bishop, attract the queen, and then some discover with the knight. That's something I could analyze at any point. It seems fine. So actually that's the only problem I can see right now. Well, also my queen might take here in some point, so this is also a possibility I could analyze. Rook takes knight, queen takes pawn, and I can get some pawns. So that's another idea. But actually the most interesting thing is this idea with the bishop. Something interesting here is that this bishop is like hanging here in the middle of the board. For example, if one piece is not attacked and is not defended, we could say the piece is hanging. And here, this bishop is attacked once and defended once, so it's the same. So it's hanging. If I attack it with a check, I will be able to capture, for example. So this bishop is like hanging in the middle of the board. So there are other ideas here I'm thinking. For example, I can also play some discover like this, and then I can be taking the bishop on e4. The good thing with this capture is that I will be threatening the bishop and more pieces here. Then I will be hanging then, and my bishop will be very powerful after that on e4. So I really like this move, knight b4. It seems very strong. White will have to capture the knight. I don't think white has too many options. I mean, at some point white can check, but that's not really dangerous, I think. And also in some point white can take here. But well, this is a move we should analyze, because I can play knight before he takes, and if I take the queen, there might be some check. If I go down, he may come with the other rook. Yeah, but there's no mate here, because once I take his bishop, my king may come to g6. So if there are some checks, my king can capture on g6 because I removed the bishop. So I don't think there's mate in that position, so actually I don't care so much about this pawn takes pawn after knight b4. So I'm pretty sure this is the right line, so I'm going to play knight b4, he takes, I take on e4 with my bishop, and that's winning. So we are going to finish here. I hope you have enjoyed thinking and calculating with these puzzles. If it was like that, give me likes. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and see you in the next.